Around 3000 BCE, before empires, before written laws of war, before kings called themselves conquerors, two cities prepared to fight, not tribes, not clans, cities, and that changes everything. On this channel, we tell history as it actually unfolded, not as legends, not as morality plays, but as systems colliding slowly, deliberately, until something irreversible happens. This is one of those moments. This isn't just about the Battle of Uruk. It's about why war, once invented at the city scale, never stopped being possible. Because when the first cities learned how to fight each other, humanity crossed a line it could never uncross. To understand why Uruk matters, you have to forget what you think early war looked like. This was not chaos. It was not constant violence. And it was not primitive. Southern Mesopotamia was already old by the time Uruk reached its height. The land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers had been settled for thousands of years. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Uruk was the largest of them all. By 3000 BCE, Uruk may have housed more than 40,000 people, an unimaginable number for the ancient world. Its walls stretched for miles, its temples rose above the floodplain, its bureaucracy tracked grain, labor, and offerings using clay tablets and symbols that would soon become writing. Uruk was not just a city, it was a machine, and like all machines, it depended on systems staying stable. Water was controlled through canals, food was stored, rationed, redistributed. Labor was organized and scheduled. Religion reinforced obedience and order. But that stability rested on something fragile: land. The southern plain was fertile, but only if managed. Canals had to be maintained. Fields had to be defended. Boundaries had to be respected. And as more cities rose, Kish, Lagash, Umma, those boundaries grew tighter. For generations, conflict was avoided through ritual, negotiation, and shared religious norms. Disputes over canals or grazing land were settled by councils or temple authorities. Violence existed, but it was small, personal, contained. Large-scale war between cities had not yet become normal. That restraint with the pressure came slowly. Population growth pushed fields outward. Canals extended farther from city centers. Each extension increased vulnerability. A canal diverted upstream meant less water downstream. A boundary stone moved meant crops lost for decades. At some point, no record tells us exactly when negotiation failed. And when it failed, Uruk faced a decision no city had faced before: whether to treat conflict as an exception or as a system. This is the turning point that matters. Uruk did not rush into violence, it reorganized. The city's leadership, priests, administrators, military overseers began to think in new terms: not raids, not revenge, but sustained force. To fight another city required something unprecedented: coordination of thousands of people. Food reserves allocated not to survival, but to campaigning. Weapons standardized and stored. Command structures established. Most importantly, it required discipline. You cannot send farmers to fight unless someone plans the harvest they will miss. You cannot move troops unless someone secures the canals behind them. You cannot sustain pressure unless someone tracks time, supplies, and loss. Uruk did all of this, quietly, deliberately. And when the decision was finally made, it was already too late to turn back. The enemy, likely a rival city-state along the Euphrates, faced the same pressures, but not the same capacity. This was not a clash of heroes, it was a contest of systems. Uruk's strength was not courage, it was restraint. The city did not gamble everything on one attack. It advanced methodically. Canals were seized or blocked. Fields were denied. Trade routes disrupted. Each move reduced the enemy's ability to function as a city. This is where early war becomes recognizable. Not slaughter, but suffocation. The risk for Uruk was enormous. A failed campaign could destabilize its own economy. Food shortages could turn citizens against leadership. Religious legitimacy could collapse if the gods were seen as displeased. That risk forced discipline. Troops were rotated, not exhausted. Supplies were measured, not wasted. Violence was applied where it mattered most, not where it felt most satisfying. This was not glory-seeking warfare. It was administrative warfare. And that is precisely why it worked. The conflict did not end with a dramatic final battle. It ended with imbalance. One city continued to function. The other could not. Uruk emerged dominant not because it destroyed its rival, but because it absorbed its territory, its labor, and its resources. The victory was quiet. The consequences were not. For the first time, a city proved that organized war could permanently reshape political geography. Borders were no longer sacred. They were negotiable through force. More importantly, war had proven itself useful, not as chaos, but as policy. That lesson spread faster than any army. After Uruk, cities across Mesopotamia changed. Walls grew thicker. Weapons became standardized. Leadership roles specialized further. Writing expanded not just for trade or ritual, but for treaties, land claims, and military logistics. War became institutional. This moment marks a shift that still defines the world. Before Uruk, violence was reactive. After Uruk, it became planned. Before Uruk's conflict was personal. After Uruk, it was systemic. Empires would rise later, Akkad, Babylon, Assyria, but they all inherited this blueprint. The idea that cities could fight not for survival, but for advantage. The idea that victory did not require annihilation, only control. The idea that war, once organized, becomes repeatable. That is the real legacy of the Battle of Uruk, not conquest, but normalization. The first large-scale city war did not announce itself as a beginning. It felt like a solution to a local problem. That is how history usually turns, quietly, logically, inevitably. If you want to explore more moments where a single decision reshaped centuries, let me know which story we should cover next. And if you found this worth your time, consider subscribing. These stories are not short, and they are not simple, but they are how the world we live in was built.